Okay, so here's part 2 of our analysis of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Now, the next sequence of the poem just sums up, and again, I don't want to be dismissive of anything, but like I talked in the previous video about how some of these long poems can be, almost overwhelming. You can be distracted by sections that are, it's difficult to see how you would use them. And this is a good example, this section. So it's the Cats section. I don't know if you know the musical Cats, but it's based on a book of poems that Eliot wrote. Eliot was obsessed with cats. And he kind of creates this illusion. I don't know, or sorry, this image in this section of London, of this urban, actually I won't even say London, of this urban landscape. And he kind of personifies it. There's this fog creeping around London, creeping around the urban landscape, and kind of gives it this feline quality. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. Is there meaning there? Perhaps. Do I see it? Not really. What do I see? And again, this is a section of the poem I wouldn't pay really any attention to if I was you. I see yellow fog. I see yellow smoke. I see standing water. I see soot. I see pollution. I see a world that is urban and ugly. Sorry. I don't see the beauty of nature. When you look at some of Eliot's other poems, you will see beauty. But there's no beauty here. There's claustrophobia. The window panes they're closed, The fog is pushing up against them. The pollution is pushing inside. Then the repetition of window panes, and it's rubbing up against the smoke is rubbing up against the window panes. The water's standing, so there's a smell. It's just an unpleasant place. And this contributes to that sense of ennui, the sense of exhaustion, the sense of the absence of excitement, the sense of lethargy that we see in the poem. Lethargy means lack of energy. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on that section. The next section is brilliant. It's a 2-stanza sequence that I think is fantastic, and it's what I'm going to focus on in this video. The monologue starts up again. And this is Prufrock, and he's talking to himself. And he's giving himself, he's trying to convince himself that he needs to go and do this thing. And indeed, there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be a time. There will be a time. And then this. Now this is top 3 quotes from the poem. I want you to try and learn them. To prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. If you wanted to follow that up with, there will be a time to murder and create, you can. But folks, that's top 3, along with in the room, the women come and go talking of Michelangelo, and there's another one coming up. So this is fascinating. So there will be a time, there will be a time, there will be a time. There's repetition. It's a feature of his work. And you get the sense this could be Hamlet talking here. You know, Hamlet's famous flaw is procrastination. You spend your life thinking about doing something and all the while not doing anything. You're like inhibited by something, and that seems to be somehow captured by the image of the yellow smoke sliding along the street. Again, the sibilance there, really, really, really effective, given that line a striking quality. So he's like saying, there will be a time, there will be a time, there will be a time. He's going to do it. He's going to do whatever it is. And then we get this unbelievable moment of insight from Eliot through Prufrock into our lives to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. And there's that sense of the falseness, the lack of truth in human interaction, the preparation that we put into presenting something that we're not to the world. Now that's interesting. That's relevant to you. That's relevant to me. That's relevant to any human being who's ever lived, because we know people are like that. We know that people often pretend to be something that they're not. And we know that they hide the inner self. And we don't know what the inner self really is. But then we have this fantastic fourth time when he says there will be time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But this time it's followed up to murder and create. And the drama of that, capturing what Prufrock kind of wants. He doesn't want to murder anybody. Maybe he wants to create. What he wants is excitement. What he wants is meaning in his life. But there isn't any. So, and he's desperate for it, but he doesn't know how to get it. And time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. And I mean, I've talked to you in class many times about juxtaposition. And like, this is a brilliant example. I can't mark the whole poem, but this is what happens when I get into a poem like this. The juxtaposition there between the profound and the trivial is just, sometimes I read poems like this and they're so good, they get to me. The third line, that is the top 3 lines from the poem, I'm going to get to it in a moment, sums this up. I'm not going to say it straight away. There's this sense from Prufrock, and maybe this is what Eliot is trying to explore as part of human nature, and I certainly can relate to it. This sense of enormous difference between what we imagine life should be and what life is. When you look at those lines, there's this enormous build-up of drama. There will be time, there will be time, there will be time. Then time for you and time for me, and time for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions. So like this build-up of finding meaning in life. 100 indecisions, there's the procrastination. 100 visions, so there's the dream, and revisions, and then redreaming and finding something else. But then the reality is taking toast and tea. No, that's the reality. That we have this inner drama, this psychological landscape, which is vast and operatic and and grand, and yet then life really is not that at all, is it? Life is taking toast and tea. We're not Michelangelo. We're people who talk about Michelangelo. You know, we're the dreariness of this poem is captured, or sorry, is explained by that dichotomy between what we imagine life should be like and what life is like. And that's Prufrock. And that's why Prufrock is such an interesting character, because he's so recognisable. And we get the famous, in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The momentum established in the first stanza, sorry, in the previous stanza, continues to build in the second stanza I want to look at here. And indeed, there will be a time to wonder, do I dare? And do I dare? And again, there's your use of repetition. Do I dare what? And the point is, he doesn't say what. Now, again, the overall story is, do I dare ask her to marry me? But it's just, do I dare? We get the sense that this is a man who's paralysed by, he's all these ideas, all these visions and revisions, but yet there's all this indecision, and there's all this dreaming of profound and meaningful things, and thinking of Michelangelo and all that he symbolises, and yet there's cowardice. There's the reality of being frozen by an inability to act. There's the trivial reality of our lives, and there's putting on this face, preparing a face to meet a face that you meet, to meet the faces that you meet. That's such a great line. Do I dare, and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair, with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. There he is. I can relate to him. He's middle-aged. He's lost the vigor of youth. He's, the tired reality of aging is upon him. They will say how his hair is growing thin. He's thinking about what other people think of him. The other people's opinions, and how they can drag us down and take away from the enjoyment of life. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin. So this is the how he puts on this presentation. He dresses smartly. He wears a morning coat, so that's a particularly fancy way of dressing. He has a pointed collar suited to the time in which he's alive. So this is what he's trying to present to the world. My necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. So he wants people to think he's smart and that he's successful and that he's respectable. They will say, but how his legs are growing thin. And there's that paranoia. Like, we work so hard to create this, to present ourselves to the world in a particular way, and yet the inner voice, the inner monologue is thinking, what way are they looking at me? How are they judging me? And it's never positive. It's always negative. So that's relatable. It's understandable. People get that. We live in a world where, it's become, supercharged, this, unbelievable paranoia that people have about how they're viewed by everybody else and how they're judged by everybody else. And this desire to fit in and an inability to cope with the reality that nobody fits in because nobody's the same. These are these themes that Eliot was writing about in Prufrock, over 100 years ago, could not be more relevant to the world that we inhabit today. This image of him, he's worried about his hair because people are going to talk about his hair going thin. He's dressing in his morning coat. He has the right tie. It's rich and modest, so it's expensive, but it's not gaudy. It is a simple pin. It's like this is the image he wants to present to the world. But the reality is, he thinks that people are going to look at him and laugh at him. How his arms and legs are thin. And then you have this: do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. So inside there's chaos. Inside there's no strength. There's weakness. There's the crumbling, edifice of meaning. But he's trying to contrast with what he's presenting to the outside world. The way he's dressed, his clothes, his demeanor. He's trying to present this control, this sense of certainty and strength, and it contrasts so greatly with what's going on the inside. And come on, isn't that interesting? Isn't this a fascinating character? Isn't he like an everyman figure that is relatable? Maybe this isn't you, but this is lots of people racked by insecurities, worn out by the daily trivia, worn out by a sense of failure, unable to see beauty in the world, and yet terrified of letting people see the truth of what's going on behind the face that we prepare to meet the faces, for the faces that we meet. Am I getting carried away? I told you I'd go mad with this poem. The, you know, that sense that life has been wasted on trivial things, and that becomes so clear in the next stanza. Again, I'm encouraging you to read the notes. But in the next, remember I said there's 3 lines. Now there's loads of lines you can learn from this poem. And look at all the things I'm marking, right? Look at all the things I'm marking. But number 1, in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. You learn that. So I'm just trying to prioritize what you learn. Okay, sorry. You can choose your own quotes, but I would learn that. To prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet, I think just sums up a lot of this poem. But the line that this poem is probably most famous for, and rightly so, features in the next stanza. For I have known them already, known them all, have known the evenings, morning and afternoons. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music in a farther room, so how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in formulated phrase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? The imagery is surreal, difficult, but what you've got to look at and what you've got to zone in on is the lines that are easy to discuss and easy to build paragraphs around. And there is no better line in this poem. And it is a line that has stayed with me since I first read it a long time ago. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I'm drinking coffee. What does it mean? I don't know. I can only tell you what I think it means. I think it's somebody who's reached a certain age and is looking back, reflecting, and feels that they've wasted their life on trivial things, on things that have no meaning and do not matter. When he says, I have known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings and afternoons, knowing the voices dying with a dying fall, he's talking about his experience of life, and it's all been meaningless. It's all meant nothing. It's not brought any understanding. It's not brought any sense of understanding of the important things in life. I have measured out my life in coffee spoons is the third line from the poem that I would learn, because it offers a profound insight into Prufrock and his sense that he has wasted his life. That the trivial... There's a great quote. If you look at my notes on personal writing, I think it's here somewhere. Yeah. It's a great quote from Charles Bukowski on the front page of that document. Bukowski said, "We're all going to die, all of us. What a circus. That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. We are terrorised and flattened by trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing." Terrorised and flattened by trivialities. Surely, when he wrote those words, somewhere in his mind, even if it's just in the back of his mind, surely... Sorry, no, got it. What the hell? Surely he was referring to Prufrock. Where's the book gone? Oh, God. Sorry, lads. Now this is me being an idiot of technical issues. There we go. So go back to there and then just scroll. There we go. Surely he was thinking about that. We are terrorized and flattened by trivialities. Here's Prufrock thinking, God, what have I done with my life? I've measured out my life with coffee spoons. And by the way, for me, that's the absolute definition of a metaphor. I often get students asking, what exactly is a metaphor? That's a metaphor. You don't take it literally. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's a symbol. And it represents, all of the little decisions that we make that are really of no value or importance to us, that, the meaningless trivia of life. And that's how he feels. He feels that, he's known them all already. He's experienced life, and it hasn't brought him any understanding or any sense of meaning. And I have known the eyes already. When he says that, I've known them all. And then he understands what it's like to be judged. And he says very famously, when I am pinned, when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall. And that's a reference to, we don't do it anymore, but it's a reference to, have you ever been to the Dead Museum and you'll see these that's the Natural History Museum in Dublin, and you'll see these, they're like boards and they have like beetles and flies and insects on them. And they are like put on these boards to be studied. And it's like this sense that he feels that he's been constantly examined and judged and analysed and found wanting. And, this image of being inadequate, of not having achieved anything, of failure. And that's why the reference to, waste is so clear there when he talks about the butt ends of my days and ways. How should I presume? And by the way, when he says, how should I presume? I should have mentioned this already. When he says, how should I presume? He's talking about, how should I presume that anybody could love me enough to want to marry me? How should I presume that anybody would want to spend their life with me? Prufrock is, he doesn't hate himself. He hasn't got that level of intensity in his soul, but he doesn't like himself. He's disappointed by himself. He's unimpressed by himself. So how can he presume that somebody else would want to share their life with him? How can I presume? How can I presume? Should I presume? Again, the repetition, a very notable feature of this poem. So this is a man who's deeply thoughtful, who's in a crisis, who's exhausted, worn out, and feels like he's reached the butt ends of his life. By the way, butt ends in relation to a cigarette. So, if you're a smoker, the good bit is that there's no good bit in a cigarette, folks, but the good bit is the long bit. And when you get to the butt end, there's very little left, and it's just about to be stubbed out. So the image of his balding head. He's aware of his fact that he's old. He feels that he's wasted his youth. He feels that with 100 visions and revisions and indecisions, he's managed to achieve exactly nothing. In the room, the women come and go. Talking of Michelangelo. So 3 quotes. I said the 3, now there are others, but the 3 most important quotes, remember what they are? I have measured out my life in coffee spoons. To prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Learn those 3. It'll give you loads to say about Prufrock. Loads to say. It doesn't matter what question comes up. You got symbolism, you got characterization, you got those profound, deep, and meaningful themes. You got the fact that reading his poetry is so thought-provoking and challenging. Loads to go there. Now we'll do a little bit more in this video, and then we'll get to the end of the poem in the next video. In the following stanza he says, and I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight downed with light brown hair? Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrap around a shawl? And should I then presume? And how should I begin? See, he's thinking about his attraction to women. And there's this idea of, the feminine, the allure of femininity, and it's captured in just he's thinking about these arms, because the way women might have dressed, the arms were exposed, and he's thinking about those arms, and he's thinking about their decoration, they're braceleted, and they're white and bare, so there's something, vulnerable there. And then you have these questions. Is it a perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? How should I presume? How should I begin? So he's attracted to this woman, but he's weak. He knows what he wants. He wants to touch her arm. He wants intimacy. He wants to feel what that is like, but he doesn't know how to get that. He doesn't know he doesn't have the strength and the power to pursue what he wants in life. And again, this causes this inner crisis within him. How can I presume that a man like me, he's saying, could possibly attract this attractive woman? He's defeated by life. It's a brilliant moment in the poem. Yeah, I'm going to stop this one here now, and we'll continue into the final analysis of this part of of this poem in the next video.